Good evening and welcome to Impact. Cliff Hughes is off this week and I'm your host for the evening, Miss Kitty. Should the government be able to limit the number of children that each family can have? And for that matter, can they impose such a limit? What is the family in today's Jamaica? And what's the link between the population and the economy? Is it boom or doom? We're going to find out when we return from this break. But let's hear what some of you have to say on the two-child limit proposal. Stay with us.
More than 70% of the persons having children are having children out of wedlock. Who is he going to sanction? The lady or the man? When a man goes around and has 3 and 4 children with 2 or 3 baby mothers, who is going to get sanctioned? The lady who has 2 children or the man who has 5? And what type of sanction?
People feel have their children, cannot age when you get old, one must remember and look after one pitney and no pitney.
Agree with the law that say more than 2? No.
The Lord bless women to have a lot of kids once he can take care of them.
Yeah, from me can about a lot, you know. You know, have a problem with that, you know, from me can maintain the youth them.
Welcome back. This is Impact. I'm Miss Kitty, and we're talking this evening about the proposed two-child policy from Senator Reid. It is our topic this evening, and the question has been squarely raised. Is Jamaica in 2014 ready for such a thing as a child limit, such that has been the case in China? Before we go to the discussion directly, George Davis has a summary of the issue for us. George?
First-time Senator Ruel Reid has found himself in a kind of socio-political hell. Mindful of the swelling numbers currently on the Path Social Benefits roll, Senator Reid, in his contribution to the State of the Nation debate, declared himself not opposed to a mandatory limit of 2 children per household for at least the next 10 years. His was a well-meaning statement he believed would receive thoughtful considerations. But what Senator Reid has done by way of his proposal is stir up controversy. He has courted criticism from the National Family Planning Board, women's reproductive rights activists, political commentators, and others. The Family Planning Board in particular is pointing to census figures showing a slowdown in Jamaica's population growth over the past several years. It says Jamaica's population is showing signs of aging and that any throttling of reproductive rates would have negative consequences in the future. But Senator Reid's proposal has its supporters. Many say child restriction legislation is necessary to arrest the country's slide down the slope of irresponsibility and degenerate behavior. The senator's supporters say if the measure seems harsh, it's still a logical starting point on the road to development. But in the debate spawned by his statement in the upper house of Parliament, the senator does have questions to answer. Can such a policy be implemented without compromising individual rights? Can a culture of promiscuity, especially among males, be countered with draconian measures? And will such a policy deliver any meaningful social or economic benefits? Senator Reid, who's also a principal of Jamaica College, says his proposal, based on China's one-child policy, still needs serious consideration. For Impact with Cliff Hughes, I am George Davis.
Thank you, George. And we now turn to our wonderful guests. Joining me this evening, Kevin O'Brien Chang, newspaper columnist and public affairs analyst, former head of the Bureau of Women's Affairs, Dr. Glenda Sims, and JLP Senator Ruel Reid, whose proposal that he raised in the House has stirred up the issue anew. Gentlemen and lady, welcome. How are you?
Thanks,
welcome to Impact. Well, let me just start off with the man of the moment, Senator Ruel Reid. Now, in many quarters, persons are talking and the debate has been raised about your proposal or the issue that you raised. Can you expound on some of it for us? Talk to me about from your perspective.
Right. Thank you very much, and welcome to your listeners. I'm very pleased that I indeed have stirred this very important debate because the prelude to my raising it had to do with the state of the nation. I was actually addressing the state of the nation and chronicled how we have arrived at almost a dysfunctional society, high levels of crime, high levels of unemployment, poor values and attitude, low productivity. We see a manifestation of a lot of children that are not being properly cared for. 50% of all our children now in school are actually on the PATH program, which in itself is inadequate, that continue to breed underperforming students and rather other social ills. And looking at our situation, I raise the issue that if a policy was properly constructed, I would not have been opposed to a consideration of a limit of 2 children per adult for the next 10 years until we resolve some of these underlying social issues. So that was the context in which I phrased the issue.
Yes. There was another area that you said, Senator Reid, that the media omitted or did not pay close attention to.
Absolutely. And in that very same, paragraph of my presentation, I raised the issue of the status of the father's registry, because clearly one of the problems that I face, even as a principal, is that too often you're meeting your children and there are no fathers around.
Yes.
In fact, in some schools you have kids who are there at a school and not even aware that they are related. And so part of the problem is that we have too many irresponsible fathers, and that is, again, breeding a lot of the social ills in the society. So as a society, if we really want to fix Jamaica, we have to frontally confront some of these underlying social issues.
Kevin O'Brien Chang, you said that Senator's proposal or the issue has some clumsiness in it. Where do you agree with him? Where do you disagree?
No, I think his diagnosis is spot on. I think all Jamaicans would agree. We need a greater sense of responsibility overall, and especially with our children. The fathers and the mothers, about you owe them a responsibility. It's not that you have a child when you want to. You have a child that you can bring up properly.
Yes.
But the aspect of Mr. Reid's proposal about state limiting, taking over the reproductive control of over the citizens, no. We're a liberal democracy, not a communist state. We're not China, we're not Cuba, we're not North Korea. I don't know Jamaicans would buy into that at all.
But why shouldn't the state limit the number of children that you can have if at the end of the day you're going to have children that are going to be on the public purse?
No, but democracy is about education and giving people ability to make better choices, not about dictating to them, you must do this. That's not what a liberal democracy is about. And I fully agree. We need the fathers playing a greater role. The mothers must accept fathers have a role. And it's about education and leadership.
Yes.
So I think, as I said, the diagnosis is spot on. The solution can be tweaked. But I think Mr. Reid has raised a very important issue, and it's good we're talking about it now. And we have to hear our leaders talking about it. I want to hear both Prime Minister and Leader of Opposition what they think about this.
I was about to follow up on that, because when it comes to leadership, and of course Senator Reid is now in the House, have our leaders done enough in that regard, Dr. Sims, to lead the charge, to have their constituents make better choices, be more responsible, understand that having children is not something willingly, it's not a walk in the park, but something to be taken very seriously?
Okay, I'd like to say that I welcome this debate. And of course, Senator Reid talked about, and Kevin also, that we have to make sure fathers are more responsible. I'm going to focus on the women, okay?
Yes.
Yes.
This government and many other governments in the world have come together and signed many important human rights conventions. Amongst them is the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women.
Yes.
And we have also signed up on the Millennium Development Goals. And one of the major objectives of those goals is the gender equality and the empowerment of women. If we are going to control the population, if we are going to get people to be responsible in their sexuality, we've got to empower women. We have to. We have to get out to the byways and in the inner cities and in the rural place and meet people where they are. When we talk about we have to educate people, I'm not necessarily talking about a university education, because even people with university education make some terrible decisions.
Yes.
I am talking about the content that must be part of our communities. So we remember the values that have brought us this forward and the values that have kept us underdeveloped, poor, and in some cases retarded.
Yes.
We need women to take control of their bodies.
Yes.
When we talk about empowering a woman, the woman must understand her body. The young girl must understand it. We must not fall into the trap that the UNFPA has published in its 2013 State of the World Population, Motherhood in Childhood. Far too many children are having children.
Yes.
Far too many of our children are being raped and abused. In Sunday's paper, the article talked about even babies, 21 cases of sexual abuse for the newborn baby to 4 years. You know, these kinds of things. And I am not going to use the word monster, nor am I going to use the word, whatever they said, these people are mad people. They are not mad people. They are our fathers, our uncles, our brothers, our friends, our doctors, our lawyers, and the pastor and priest in the church. I mean, just do the research and we'll see it. So therefore, we've got to empower that young girl to know her body. We have to empower her to understand her sexuality. And we must stop saying sex is sin, because sex is not sin.
Right.
She needs to understand that she has a sexuality, but she manages it. Her body does not belong to the state, nor to the man, nor to the United Nations. It belongs to us. And that's where I start from. And so when I think Mr. Reid is going, you know, how do we get this empowerment that we make a decision to have or not to have children? Kevin, young men tell me in their communities they better start having children very early, or else they are called geldings.
Or manginep in some cultures.
Manginep?
Right.
Yes.
We need to change that.
And women are called mules if they have no children.
Yeah.
A woman is a woman with or without children. And we need our young people to understand that. We need young men to understand truckload of gal, not moving them any place except to jail.
And you actually preempted me, Dr. Sims, because I was about to pose to the two gentlemen that our culture of promiscuity, it also forms part of the problem. Man for have enough gal and gal in a bungle. A man for have enough baby mother, a man for have enough youth. But what is good is it if you're going to have all these youths but you don't know their names? You're never there for a christening, you're never there for a graduation, you're not there for homework, you're not there to have that relationship with the children. And for me, if you have two children, at least maybe you can go there and help with the homework, or better yet, be in the same household where they know you and have a relationship with you. We're going to go to the break and be right back. A very spirited discussion here on Impact this evening. Two children or two children household limit. It is Impact. I am Miss Kitty.